Hello everyone, my name is Haydn and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be firing off actions to our Redux store in order for our React components to update. So in this video, like I said, we're going to be basically creating these buttons here. So you can edit the surname. So if I type in, SWE, that changes the name. And if I click this new name button, you see we get a random new name picked there. We're going to be creating these buttons and making the name update in this video. Let's jump into it. Okay, so first things first, you should be up to here in this point of the video. If not, go back and look at the previous video. But here I want to create a buttons container here. And let's basically duplicate that. Let's call that button container, and this is going to import from button container. And you know the drill, come over to containers, new file, button container.js. So in button container.js, we need to do kind of the opposite of what we did in the name container.js, which is where we pass state from the React Redux store to the component. What we're going to do here now is basically give the component a function that it can fire off that will update the store. So basically when I click the new name button, it's going to fire off a action to a reducer that will update the store. And similarly, the surname button will fire off an action that will update the surname. So what we're going to need to do is, for now, we're going to kind of cheat the system a little bit here, where we basically are just going to pass null. Sorry, it's not. We're going to pass null and null. But what I want to do is render, let's just call this buttons, right? And then in components, let's make a new folder called buttons. And then in there, let's go index.js, buttons.jsx, and buttons.cssxss, rename. CSS. So then in here, in index.js, we want to import buttons from buttons, export default buttons. Bosh, done. Buttons.jsx, what we can do is basically just lift and shift what names.jsx does in here and rename this to buttons. Don't need props, so we can get rid of that for the minute. Don't need that. Let's type hello. Let's call this buttons container, buttons, and this could be called buttons.css, and then if we reload this, failed to comply, buttons is not defined in buttons container. That is very true, because we need to say import buttons from components / buttons. And there we go, there's our website. Cool, so we've got hello, which is coming from buttons.jsx, and if I change this to something else, you can see it updates, all is good. So what we want to do is create kind of these buttons for the minute. The add to favorites and the boy girl button, I'm going to kind of leave as blank, but these two, the new name and the edit surname button, we're going to implement. So if we jump back over here, we basically want to say a buttons container. We're going to have two sections here. We're going to have the kind of top section, which is going to be this section, and we're going to have the section for bottom. Inside the top will be the add to favorites button, and in order to do that we need to import button from ant design. Yes, sweet, cool. Button. I want the shape to be round. I want the style to be border color red, and I want the color to also be red. That's that, and this is called add to favorites. That should appear. There we go, bosh. So we've got our little add to favorites button, which looks similar to this one here. I've got a little heart on the end of mine. Cool, so we have our add to favorite buttons. I also, under here, then we need to create our kind of our new name button. So our new name button, again, is going to be a button. Do we have icon? Smile. Size is large. And this is called new name. Yeah, the package version of Ant design I'm using doesn't have icon anymore, so I'm just going to remove that for now and just do that. That's enough for me. We also need to basically have a switch for the gender button. I'm going to say default checked. Say checked children is equal to boy unchecked children is equal to girl, and that's going to be that for the minute, and I don't need any text there, so we can do that. You can see our little boy go, and I click and click, boy, girl, nice. Yeah, I'm actually going to make a separate component for this because this is going to be like what's known as a modal. So I'm going to say this is the edit surname button.jsx. Buttons.jsx, I'm going to import the edit surname button. Let's just render that. Import the edit surname button from edit surname button. That will probably break, but yeah, all is all cool. So let's jump into edit surname button. So this is going to be a modal. So again, we're going to say function edit surname button. Section is hello. We want to import React from React to export default edit surname button. Cool, and yeah, look, we're getting hello here. So let's now, what we need to do is basically make our modal. So in order to do that in Ant Design, we first create a button, which is of type link. Size is again going to be large, and we're going to say the on-click event. So when you click this button, what I want you to do is set is visible to true, like so. And then we're going to come up here in our React component, and we're going to use some React hooks to do this. So we're going to say const is visible, and set is visible is equal to use state. Default state is going to be false, so by default it's not going to be visible. And then when you click the button, it will become visible, and this is going to be a button edit surname. And you can see when I click that, it looks like a link. It's changing state at the minute, but obviously you can see that. So the second thing we need is a modal, which comes from Ant Design. Let's import that. So this is our modal. Title of our modal is going to be enter surname. Yeah, so basically what's happening is when we click this button, this modal will pop up, and we're creating this modal at the minute. So this is our title. Enter surname. The visibility of this is going to be the state of is visible, and then on OK. So when the person clicks OK, we're going to say, yeah, let's not do that for now. Let's say on cancel. That's where we're going to have to fire off our basically our action. We want to set is visible. So on cancel, we want to set is visible to false, so that it basically doesn't become visible anymore. And then in here, we're going to create an input field. So if you see what's going on at the minute, when I click edit surname, we've got this little box, we've got OK and cancel. When I click cancel, it goes, and that's because I'm toggling is visible down here, but we've got nothing in there. So let's create a input from Ant Design. Placeholder is going to be equal to, what could we say, like please enter surname, something like that. And then on change event, we're basically going to submit that surname. So let's just on change. For now, what I'm probably going to say is the event. Let's just do console.log the event for now, just so it's all kind of like wired in and ready to go for us in a minute. We don't need anything on the other side of that input, so that is all good. Cool, perfect. So when I click this button now, you can see we can enter the surname, we can press OK. That should really, so sorry, yeah, actually when this input changes on change, we actually want to populate like a, a value to store the surname that they've basically put. So let's make a input surname and set input surname, and this equals to use state. For now it can just be blank string. So basically what we want to say is every time that they type, we need to set the input surname to the event.target.value, which will basically update this value every time with whatever they're typing in this field. So as I'm typing, that value is being updated, which is cool. So I'm actually going to come down here as well and implement handle OK, which is going to call out to our handle OK method that we're going to create. So for now, let's say const handle OK is equal to, let's just say what, like set is visible. So obviously when we press the OK button, we want the visibility of the modal to go to false. We also want to set the current surname to obviously whatever they've put in that modal, but for now let's do console.log the input surname, which is this field here. So if we refresh and I go to here now, here, let's get rid of all of that. And then I go edit surname and I go ABC123, press OK. And you can see that is printed to the console, you see? So it's basically tracking whatever people have put into this field here. That's most of that done. Let's make that look pretty. So yeah, if we go to buttons.css, cool, and then that brings them all into the center. So you can see now we've got all of our good stuff, which is perfect. Right, so let's wire in the functionality now. When I click new name button, this name changes. So in order to do that, we need to in another project I've got this constants folder, which you can get from the GitHub link in the video description, of boys names and girls names, and you can see that they're just basically a big object with the first letter of so with the key as a string of a letter of a character, and then a big array of all, kind of girls' names that start with the letter A, for example, and similarly with boys' names. And then in index.js, I've just, imported and exported those objects. So this is how we're going to basically generate our boys and girls' names. So what I want you to do is come into sources, create a new folder called services, and in this I want to create a baby name generator.js, and I'm basically going to copy and paste this code, but I'll explain what it does. So it basically imports those two big objects from constants, and then we have a method called baby name generator, which takes a boolean of isBoy. So if it's a boy, look in the boys' names, otherwise it's a girl, so look in the girls' names, and a character. By default, the character is null, which means that you've not selected. So you see in my website, you can select a character here, or you can select nothing, and it will give you a random name, or I just want letters with D in them. So if you select a character, you'll do certain things. So for example, here, if you've selected it, if character is null, then pick a random letter and then pick a random name from that letter. Whereas if there is a character, then you just want to pick a random name from that character in the alphabet for boy and girl. So what we want to do then is come into our new name button, and we want to add a method onto here called onClick. So when you click this button, we want to say handle baby name change. And let's make a method up here called const handle baby name change, which is a method. And what we want to say is const new name is equal to the baby name generator. We don't have an isBoy or girl yet because we've not wired that in, so I'm just going to say true, which means it's basically always going to be a boy, and the character is going to be null for the meantime, because we haven't implemented that bit yet. That's going to complain, which is fine because it doesn't know where baby name generator from services / baby name generator. That's good. So we've got our new name. So this is going to be generating us a new name, and we can prove that because I can do console.log new name here, and then if I go to the inspector, if I click new name, you can see it's picking me loads of random names, which is exactly what we want, but we need to wire this button into this. This is where containers come in. So let's go to our button container, and we basically need to create we need to fire off an action to the Redux store that's going to update the first name for us. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say const, I'm going to say map dispatch to props. So we want to basically dispatch an action to the Redux store in order for it to update the Redux store with our value. So I'm going to say set. I'm going to make a method in here called set current first name, or no, what did we said for name, didn't we? For name, and that's going to be equal to a method called basically a lambda function called name, which dispatches, which is I'll explain kind of what this, which is going to dispatch the action. So we need to import some actions. You remember we made actions before? This is where it all gets. So we have these two actions, set current forename and set current surname. So in here I want to say import set current forename and set current surname from actions. Perfect. So I want to dispatch the action get current forename, and the payload of that action is going to be the name that we pass in here, and you can see in actions, it takes a payload and pops the payload in there. So basically we've just made an inline function or a lambda function that takes a name and dispatches that, which is passed in here, to the set current. It dispatches an action. It's like firing off a function which generates this action with this name passed in. Match dispatch to props, then we can plug into the buttons. And in fact, while we're here, let's just do exactly the same for the forename, because we're going to need the surname also. So set current surname is equal to name, and set current surname, because we're going to need that. So these are basically going to fire up, like, we are going to pass these methods into the component, and then we can call those methods inside our components, and it will fire off those actions to the store. So set current forename and set current surname are going to get passed into buttons. So I can come into buttons now, and in props, I've now got access to those. So it's set current forename and set current surname gets pulled out of props. Perfect. So handle on baby name change. So what we want to do here is just say set current forename is equal to the new name. New name. So what do you think is going to happen here? Pause the video and kind of work out. So when I click this button, obviously we saw it printed to the console, but we've now made a function that is going to fire off and update the Redux store. And this component here is linked already to the Redux store to read that part state. So when I click this button, nothing happens. Sweet. Type error is not a function. Okay, cool. Yes. Because I'm awful at spelling, I've spelt the wrong name. So set current forename, set current forename. Let's do that again. So what do you think is going to happen when I click this button? Click this button and that changes, because what's actually happening under the hood here is you can see if I go store.get state, this is like the bread and butter of it all. You can see the current forename in the Redux store is Jamie, and when I click this button, we generate a new. So when I click this button on click, I call this method, which generates me a random new name, prints it to the console, which you can see there, and then fires off this action to update the Redux store. Because you can see now when I click this button, that changes. Lenwood changes, and if I look in the store, Lenwood is now in the store, because basically what's happening is I'm calling this method, which is actually this function here, which takes a name, which we're giving it, dispatches the action current forename, which builds this action here, which this action gets passed into the reducer here as an action. I look up the type and say, is it equal to set current forename? If so, then I take the state and I append onto it the forename of the action.payload, and action.payload is this action.payload, which is this new name here. So that's how it's updating, and this is wired in because this you saw in name container, we're mapping the state, which is this, current name, which is this, and the forename, which is this, to that component, and that's literally how you update state. So let's now do exactly the same for the surname. So we've got a function called surname. We're going to come into buttons container. We've already created the set current surname button. We've got the action set current surname. Don't need that. Come into here, come into buttons, come into switch. We need to now pass, or I'm going to say set current surname equals set current surname. So I'm going to come, so I'm passing this function through to this React component known as prop drilling. So I need to pull it out of here. Props, that's that, set current surname. And when I press OK, I want you to set the current surname as our input surname and close again. So now if I clear this, refresh this, you can see it says software engineer now. I'm going to come into here, I'm going to change that to blogs. I'm going to press OK, and you can see that now changes to blogs. I can come in here and I can change this to, I don't know, let's say Jones. Click OK, and that is changing that to name. So now we're updating this stuff using Redux, which is awesome, you see, because basically what's coming in here is we're passing the set forename and set surname like Redux actions through, passing that into edit surname. Edit surname is pulling that out. On handle OK, we are setting the visibility of the modal false, so it basically disappears. We're printing it to the console, and then we're setting the surname to the input surname, and input surname is set to whatever the value we type into that box is. There we go. So that is basically like the bread and butter now of Redux. You've got one component, the names component, that is updating every time that state changes. They don't have to be connected. It's just like subscribing to the part of the store with that information in it. And we've got other components that are like separate in the app in completely different places that are firing off actions that are updating the store. And, you know, those components are reading it, pulling it out, and, you know, re-rendering because of that. That was a lot to take in. I understand that is quite a heavy kind of paradigm architecture to kind of like get your head around, but once you do get your head around it, it'll be super, super simple. Obviously the code's going to be on GitHub. I'll link that in the description below so you can check that out and, you know, walk through it in your own time. But basically you have React component that subscribes to a specific part of the Redux store. And when that changes, that React component changes. And then you have what's known as reducers, which update the store, and you give reducers actions, and depending on those actions, those reducers do different things. So for example, I've got the handle, you know, current name, which is the, you know, the name at the top of the website. Reducer, that takes two actions. It takes either the set first name or set surname, and depending on what action it receives, it will either update the first name or the surname with the payload, what is ever in the action. Cool, so I hope you found this useful. Please like and subscribe because it helps me out. It helps me make more videos, and, you know, if you like stuff like this, I can keep making videos like this. Any comments, any questions, please leave the comments down below, and obviously check out the GitHub link as well. Thank you very much. Have a great day.